For me, it was just all play. I had no visions of a career. I don't want to take myself too seriously, so I like a lot of paint. I like to slather it. If you take a look at my early works, the parts of the painting where the paint has become very thick are the parts where I've made a lot of mistakes. So I don't set out to paint thickly. It happens, but then again, I also like a lot of paint. I like the feeling of a lot of paint on the brush, on my palette. I like the look of a lot of paint. It was a natural. It's like, I guess you could call it like a thumbprint. The way an artist handles a paintbrush, the way the paintbrush moves, or the way, or his relationship with the paint, with the material. It's like a thumbprint. It's unique to your body and your temperament and your relationship with things. I've always been doodling like all kids do, but I never considered that I would get into the arts. Even towards my senior year in high school, it never occurred to me. What I remember is my grandma made me watch a matinee movie when I was about 5 years old. I think that the title of the movie was A Dog of Flanders, shot in Belgium. It's about a young boy who wanted to be a painter but could not afford painting materials. Well, to make a long story short, eventually he found an art patron and he was shown a large painting by Rubens. Rubens is The Raising of the Cross. My grandma told me to watch that movie, and she said, because you're going to be an artist when you grow up. She's always been a bit clairvoyant. From kindergarten all the way to high school, I went to Maryknoll. I always got good grades in art, which didn't mean anything to me because I didn't think I'd get into the arts. You know, when you're a kid, you're just playing with art materials. After high school, my mom didn't want me to go to UP because she thought I might just get into drugs because it was the 70s and, you know, the toys in that era were drugs. It's not cell phone, it's not, you know, games. I took up a course in psychology, but the teachers were not very inspiring. My barkada, one by one, they were getting kicked out of the school, and I knew I was next, so. I'm a reflection of the times. By default, I said, oh, well, I'll just take fine arts at UP. She didn't really care as long as I pursued any course. It didn't even occur to me to be an artist, so I just enrolled. I suppose this is true for most colleagues of mine. You enter into art knowing there's a huge possibility that you'll end up starving. My dad was a banker, so for him it was not a practical course, fine arts, but he let me be a painter. I felt I was thrust into the art scene at a young age. When I was a student, I was being invited by the Japan Foundation and Instituto Cervantes. I wasn't really interested because, like I said, I never consciously went into fine arts to make a career out of painting. I've never been a competitive person. Otherwise, I would have jumped at the chance to show when the Japan Foundation and Cervantes invited me. For me, it was just all play. Even if I was taking my work seriously, I had no visions of a career. I don't want to take myself too seriously, so probably the one who had the most profound influence on me would be Roberto Chabet, the late Roberto Chabet. When I was a freshman and a sophomore, the elder classmen kept warning me about. They kept saying, whatever you do, don't enroll in his class. So, of course, I enrolled in his class. At a young age, he encouraged me to exhibit. Even as a student, he was giving me slots in galleries like Pinaglabanan Gallery and finale, and I would be showing constantly. Yeah, I was still a student and I was exhibiting at a few galleries already. Upon Roberto Chabet's prompting, we had so many informal classes. You probably know of Nanette's. It's a hole-in-the-wall sari-sari store in the UP Diliman area or Teachers Village. I'm not sure anymore. And on some days we would hold classes there, and over beer and pulutan, and then not necessarily talk about art. We would just spend time together. He encouraged us to explore ideas more than anything, so that in your playfulness, in your exploration, your work is your own. He taps the individuality. Unlike some teachers I've seen, when they handle a class, the artworks tend to look like the works of the teacher. But in Mr. Chabet's case, he's always looking for what's unique in you. He encourages you to explore that. I'm constantly fascinated by good work. So like Robert Ryman and then Jasper Johns. They're always in my periphery, my peripheral vision. The attitude towards paint, the attitude towards an idea. I think subconsciously you pick up certain aspects of an entire body of work just because these things linger in your mind. Local painters I admire are mostly my colleagues because I've seen how they think, their thought process, and the way they tackle art. So these would be people like Jet Melencio, Reg Hewson, Popo San Pascual. So fine arts was so much fun, but it was also like a joke among the colleagues because there are so many things going on that are probably not going on in other departments. I see an image and I stare at an image, and if it stares back at me, then it's interesting to me and I want to use it. Automatically, I want to use it. I still find classical paintings or old masters paintings fascinating. So I would randomly use imagery from magazines and from books, which Mr. Chabet called our intellectual landscape, because our minds, even when we go to sleep, we have visions, we have imagery. I've used a lot of Titian. I've used Rubens, Van Eyck. When I mount a show, I try to maintain that playfulness. There's always an element of exploration, because otherwise I'm bored with my own work. And I would probably stop painting. I don't know. You don't really think about yourself, you just think about the work. So I was not on a manhunt to find my own identity. I was just painting, doing stuff. Cropping would be my way of making the old imagery interesting. Yes, it's a way also of extracting myself from what came before, but still, being faithful to myself. And I like to focus on certain details and blow them up. I'm only interested in, let's say, the smile or a kerchief or a hand gesture. I've tackled the Mona Lisa. Yeah, it's a diptych, and I focused only on her smile. And then, so the diptych, the counterpart would be a green bean pod emulating the smile. No, it was just a green pod smiling at me. So I used it because Mona Lisa is all about the smile. I play around with images in my mind so that when it's time to attack the canvas, I already know how to compose the painting. I know I've already played around with it in my head. So I don't have this habit of making studies. I'm very old school. I would rather not use the computer. I still use a grid when I paint. I think there are some colleagues of mine who have learned to use a projector to paint with. I tried that, but I never figured out how to do it. Maybe a sketch. I could use a sketch. I'm a technophobe. In fact, I'm dyslexic, so spending time on technology triggers my dyslexia. I've never completed a painting not thinking that I could have done better. So there's always that dissatisfaction. There's always doubt. I've never given up on a painting. Because painting for me is problem solving. And if I leave it, then I failed or I didn't solve the problem. Like I see always where I could have improved or how I could have pursued the work, where I could have taken it. That's very valid for a viewer to interpret the work. I don't intentionally infuse the work with meaning because meaning is so subjective anyway. To admire the work, to enjoy the work, but not necessarily to emulate them. Although I am aware that possibly somewhere in a different part of the world or a different part of the city, someone's coming up with work that looks like mine. There's no other way to pursue an art career except to be yourself. Be true to yourself, true to your nature, and act with conviction. There's no point in imitating the auction stars or taking from others that are making it big. You make your own rules, you solve your own problems. It sounds so corny, but you have to be yourself. You have to be yourself because you have to discover what's unique about yourself and run with it.